Hello and welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here are some of the big stories we'll be watching this week. The UK Prime Minister is set to make her first major foreign policy speech, possibly with more details on her plans for Brexit. We'll have some European economic data from Germany and the UK. And how is the world's biggest retailer faring? Walmart is set to report its third quarter results. We'll start in the UK, where Theresa May has just returned from a trip to India, her first trade mission as Prime Minister. And next week will be another milestone when she makes her first key foreign policy speech in London. Brexit will of course be top of the agenda. Mrs. May has said little about her strategy for Britain's future relationship with the EU and her vision for Britain's place in the world since she became Prime Minister in July. What she has said is that Brexit means Brexit. And with the election of Donald Trump as the next US president, she may also offer some insight on bilateral ties between the two countries. So, how much detail can we expect from her speech? Here's our political editor, George Parker, with more.
Well, given that Theresa May has said virtually nothing about foreign policy since she became Prime Minister in July, beyond vague slogans about what Brexit means, I think people will be looking for some real detail here. It's a big set-piece foreign policy speech in front of the foreign policy establishment at the Guildhall in the City of London. So we'll be looking for some more detail about the kind of trading relationships she wants to strike around the world and the kind of deals she wants to strike with our European partners. But of course, crowding in on the whole thing is the amazing events in America with the election of Donald Trump. What's she going to say there about the relationship we can expect between Britain and America with this new president in place? Can the special relationship endure with a president who takes very different views on things like ethnic minorities to the Prime Minister? So we're looking for some detail about how she sees the security and trading relationship with Donald Trump evolving over the next few months.
Mrs. May's speech on Monday is expected to be attended by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and Secretary of State for Justice, Elizabeth Truss, among others. Now, we're staying with the UK for a minute as we look ahead to some European economic indicators. We'll be watching whether consumer price inflation in the UK is on the rise. Although CPI has run at less than half the Bank of England's 2% target for 2 years, it picked up sharply in September to 1%. Here's what to look out for when the data for October is released next week.
Inflation has started to pick up, and this is likely to be the start of a big rise over the next year in consumer price inflation in the UK, as higher energy costs and the depreciation of sterling start to feed through. Exactly how high it's going to go is a source of disagreement amongst forecasters, and there are two factors that they seem to disagree about. One is where sterling's value is going to go. Will it stay where it is? Will it fall further, or could it actually go back up? And the second is about how able firms will be to pass on higher costs to consumers. Some forecasters think they will be able to do that, others think there'll be much less scope to do that.
Also this week, we'll find out how Germany, the Eurozone's economic powerhouse, performed in the third quarter. The country makes up almost a third of the Eurozone's economy and has consistently outperformed other member states in the bloc. The data is expected to show that a buoyant labour market, with unemployment at its lowest level since the unification of East and West Germany, will continue to support high growth in consumer spending. The wave of refugee arrivals last year has also boosted spending by the government in Berlin. And finally to the US, where it's been a busy year for Walmart, the world's largest retailer by sales. It has finally put a plan in action for its online business, and much is riding on whether the $3 billion acquisition of Jet.com will accelerate its online sales and make Walmart more appealing to that crucial millennial demographic. Walmart, of course, accounts for almost 10% of US retail sales, so is a good benchmark for the whole sector. When the chain releases its third quarter results this week, investors will also be keen to hear executives' views on how US consumers could be affected by last week's election of Donald Trump as US president. Here's the FT's Rob Armstrong with more.
The important context here is that Walmart is coming out of a dark period in its corporate history. After decades of steady growth in same-store sales and in profits, there was a couple of years where Walmart just couldn't get the growth at the same-store level. People lost confidence in the stock, and the company has responded by putting more workers in the shops, investing more in the shops, make the shopping experience better. It's also investing heavily online. Now, the economic context is that the U.S. economy, despite the recent revolution we've seen in U.S. politics, is doing pretty well. We have wage growth, we have employment growth. This is an environment a retailer should be prospering in. And if Walmart isn't prospering, people are going to come to the conclusion that there's something wrong with Walmart's model, not just its execution.
And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. Goodbye.